excited to share this wine with you. It's a good, lighter Easter wine. Pierre Breton is one of my all-time favorite producers. They are from the Loire Valley in France. That's northwestern France. And they produce the most fun wines and have a tendency to do some, I'll say, not so typical styles. This one is a Cabernet Franc, and you'll see what I mean by different style when you see the color of this wine. So here's a little background information on what is typical of Cabernet Franc from the Loire Valley. They can be pretty earthy, which is one of my favorite things about the variety when it's in that region. The color is fairly dark and what we would call a ruby. Right away, when you nose the wine, it's somewhat intense with fruit, floral, green notes, and that dusty leather funk that we know and really love from these wines. I mean that in the nicest way. I know it sounds really weird, but when you taste the wine while thinking about those descriptors, you'll know what I'm talking about. And one that I think is so funny is cigar box. I hear this all the time, and personally, I cannot stand the smell of people smoking cigars, but a humidor smells really nice and earthy. Again, it's all chemical compounds producing the smell that is associated with it. Depending on a producer's choice, Cabernet Franc may or may not be aged in new French oak. If it is, it will likely show some of those more warm spice notes and have a bit more of an elegant texture. Now, I actually did a tasting of one of Breton's other Cabernet Francs next to a heavy, silky, rich South American Cabernet Franc, and that was really fun because it was the same grape from two different places, produced in two different styles. I actually did a tasting video featuring that South American wine, so I will link that in the description so you can go watch that after this video and compare. So back to the producer. Breton produces a lot of Cabernet Franc and Chenin Blanc. Both are widely planted varieties in the Loire Valley. This bottling is a little newer. The first was made in 2009, so let's just say in terms of wine, that is a little baby. It is very young. And you'll see when I open the bottle that the color is lighter than what I just described most Loire Valley Cabernet Francs to have. This is because the style of this wine is considered a claret. I would describe it as a kind of dark rosé, light red. And it's not so common that you will for sure find the style in your local wine shop, but known enough that if you mention it to an educated wine professional, they'll know what it is. The wine is much more fruit forward than a typical Loire Cabernet Franc. It is organically produced. It is from about 50-year-old vines, harvested by hand, of course, is fermented with natural yeasts, and is bottled with minimal sulfur. And one thing I love about this producer is they purposefully produce some Cabernet Francs that are meant to be drunk young, and they don't require extended aging to reach their peak because, you know what? A lot of people or simply don't have the means to cellar a wine for many years. Okay, let's actually get to open it now and see what we think of the wine. So go ahead and taste. Let me know what you think. So right away when I look at the color of this one, well, it does have that same kind of ruby color that I mentioned earlier. It is lighter than a typical Cabernet Franc from the region. And it is very fruit forward right away on the nose. I am getting a lot of those dark cherries, dark raspberry, cranberry, and the green notes. Now I'm really getting to the Cabernet Franc here that I love. It's very herbaceous. There is just a little bit of that funk on the nose. And one of my notes that is more of a personal thing with Cabernet Franc is it actually reminds me of cider from France. And so when we're talking about the geography, we have the Loire valleys in northwestern France, and right around there is also Normandy and Breton. So Breton, where we have Loire, and then Breton, also northern, produces cider, and then Normandy produces cider. And there is this very distinct note in the wine that just reminds me of being in one of those little Normandy cottages and drinking whatever you can find when you go to the butcher. You pick up your charcuterie meats and then you just pick up a bottle of cider at the same place, and that's what the cider smells like. Which is really interesting, and why I love these types of wines where they're very minimal with any kind of manipulation that they do with the wine, because that to me is a very terroir driven wine. And the same thing with the ciders when they're very terroir driven, because they're so close. It just makes me think about what is it in the nature of it, and then, chemically speaking, what's going on that it makes them so similar, because this is grapes and that's the apples. But just smelling it, I seriously so similar. This just adds more of the red fruit characteristic that I don't get in the cider. Same thing on the palate. I do get that funk note, that cider-like funk note right away. It's very dry. The tannins are much lower than they normally would be with other Cabernet Franc from the Loire, and that's due to the style. This is gorgeous. Oh my goodness. And this really is the first time I've had it. I am very impressed. Oh my goodness. I just have to take a minute to admire it. This is amazing. Oh my goodness. Okay, this is pretty incredible how my mouth is watering like crazy right now from the acidity levels in it. I can feel the texture in my cheeks and everything. This is beyond my words. Wow. I'm having so much fun. So, what I was going to say, it does have those same fruit characteristics on the palate. I'm sure you notice if you taste. But they're much drier. It's much more of the kind of underripened tart characteristic, which is still something that you find in other Loire Valley Cabernet Franc. It's actually a pretty good indicator of old world wines in general, when it stays very tart on the palate compared to on the nose, whereas in the New World we tend to look for it might be just ripe on the nose, and then when it goes, super ripe, overripe on the palate, that's kind of a New World style. Those really ripe, jammy ones can be, but of course, related to warmer climate, and this is a bit cooler as well. Now that I've had my little nerd out there, I'll actually tell you a bit more about the producer, and one of my favorite things about them is the labels. So this one, Avis has a fun name. So Avis for V-E-N-T refers to a strong wind warning, hence the captain on the label. So they replaced vin with vin, which is V-I-N. So it kind of means strong wine warning, but I like to think of it as warning, great wine ahead, partly because it's a lighter style, so it's not really strong per se, but you get the reference. And I just love those cute little things that they do with their wine labels. It's not like labels on a Burgundy, for example. Well, that would have a few similarities, like labeling the vintage and appellation, which is on the side here. Though Burgundy will tell you exactly where it's from right up front on the label. So if it's a Grand Cru, it will say which. If it's a Premier Cru, same thing. Well, I should say, for example, if it's a blend of two separate Premier Cru sites, it will just say Premier Cru and it won't say which ones, and that's how you know it's a blended, but you get the point. Breton has fun little stories with a lot of their labels, and it's just something that I really love about the producer. Yeah, back to tasting wine now. seriously love